expert. I would have to, I'm only 77 years old, but I should come back when I'm 92 and then give the lecture, and then I could really say, but I'm doing my best, and I'm going to share some things which I think can help you to improve your life. So we'll get into it. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. Here we go. So it's called Yoga Health Secrets, and it's based on an article that I wrote some years ago, and I think that's how Krishna Prema got the idea for this. And so we're going to go into it, but I'm going to depart from what I did in that article. So in that article, I based it on this, because this is called Secrets for a Long Life. And if you go into a book called Charya Part 3, the appendix, there are these secrets for a long life. And these are secrets which our teacher, P.R. Sarkar, Sri Anandamurti, Baba, whichever you want to call him, he gave this information. And actually, we could spend the whole hour and a half, 2 hours just on these. But I'll go through them briefly, because today I want to focus on a few other things from another part of his teaching, which is very interesting. So he said that if you want to live a long life and a healthy life too, you should have proper physical labor. And you know that in our modern times, it's difficult because we've eliminated labor. We've eliminated everything. You don't have to. You could sit on your chair 24 hours almost. So, but we have to do that. And then he goes on. And some of these things are very common sense, but they actually have importance. He says you should eat as soon as one feels hungry. And conversely, if you're not feeling hungry, you shouldn't eat. So there are certain diseases, and we'll get into that, which are caused by people eating at the wrong time and they're not hungry, they keep eating. But the simple thing is, if you're hungry, eat. But if you're not hungry, don't eat. And then another thing which he says is very important, go to sleep as soon as one feels sleepy. So you know how it is that we want to watch the next thing on the Netflix or the YouTube or this or that. We keep on going. But you really, if you're tired, when the time comes to sleep, you should sleep. Eating and sleeping, these are so elementary things, but they're really very important for proper health. Then another thing which he says, and you'll see how it comes in, especially when I get to my very last point, is regularity in spiritual practices. So this means meditation, especially, and yoga asanas and things like that. So that will go a long way to keep you healthy and happy and living a long and fruitful life. Then another thing which he said, we should fast at intervals. So you know that you have to rest. You can't, we have Saturday and Sunday, we have rest. We have maybe a vacation. And if you take away that rest, it'll be very difficult to continue. But the same thing for our digestive system, it needs to rest sometimes. So that's why fasting is a very important practice. We could spend the whole time talking about how to do fasting, what to do, and we won't do that now, but suffice to say, it's very important. If you don't know how to do it, you should come back and learn how to do it and integrate that in your life. Then another thing which he says, we should perform half bath before meditation and sleeping and meals. So half bath is when you wash your hands and arms and your legs and feet, extremities, and water is in the eyes, and it's also on the abdomen region, and you get really fresh, and that really, it helps you to meditate better, it helps you to digest your meals better, actually, and it helps you to sleep better. So if you can get those three things in order, then you will really go a long way to keeping healthy. Then the next 3 points were added. Originally, there were only 6 points for a long life. And these last 3 points were he added at a later time He said yogurt. This is basically the probiotics. That's what he's talking about. So you could also take it. It could be milk yogurt. There are other kinds of yogurt now you can get. And then he said raw food. And we're going to come back to raw food. Raw food is very important for a certain reason. And then he said getting out of bed in the Brahma Muhurta. This is like basically, it's when the sun is rising, a little bit before, a little bit after. In that time, you shouldn't linger. So this is actually very important. You know that there are certain kinds of sleeping habits which also contribute to disease. If you sleep a lot during the day and you stay up into the extremities of the night, then you have to sleep the whole day, and that really upsets our biological flow, and it can cause disease. So you should get your sleep in the proper order, get out of bed early. So Benjamin Franklin said, early to bed, early to rise makes man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So he was right. And then the last is called 16 points. And these are all around spiritual practices. If you don't know that, there's also we can go into a whole seminar on that sometime, but we're not going to go into that. But some of these 16 points, especially the ones related to cleanliness, come in, especially when I bring in my last factor. But today, we're not going to dwell on these things, although we could do it, and they're worthy of a long treatment. But today I'm going to base it on a certain thing. One time our teacher came to all the disciples, and he said, he said to them, do you know the book which I spent the most time on and you people spend the least time on? So he wrote over 200 books. So what book is he talking about? Do you know that book? You know what that book is? Nobody knows what it is. So I'll give you the answer now. It's called Yogic Treatments and Natural Remedies. This book is one of the most amazing books that was ever written, I would say. Why? Because he lays out the main diseases that which people get. There's very serious diseases, cancer and heart disease, there's skin diseases, all kinds of disease, gallbladder, kidney stones, everything. And then what he does in that book, he says, these are the symptoms, and then you'll know the symptoms when you see them. And then these are the causes of it, and this is the treatment of it. And if you can, you may not have all these diseases, but read the whole book. And if you read that book, you're going to learn basic pattern of things which contribute to health and wellness, and things which are against it. So that's really what I want to talk about, some of the things from this book which I think are very important, very, very important to dwell upon in a long form. We don't have a long form, but at least we should give some importance to them. So let's see, what is my first point? So one of the first things which I noticed, in this book, he gives the remedies for all the different diseases. And these are basically, you could say they're naturopathic, in the sense that it depends more on curing the condition. Because, we have also these days all kinds of pills and things which cure diseases, will relieve the symptom. But if you have the underlying factors which contributed to the disease, and you don't address those, you're going to get the disease again. So that's why food is really a very, very important factor. Now, regarding food, there are a few things I will say about that. So that the yogic diet is very important. And this is another subject we could spend the whole time on, but the yogic diet is to eat the foods which are good for the mind and the body, and to avoid foods which are bad, especially bad for the body, but also bad for the mind. It's very important, and it has a very big effect on health. But I know there are a lot of yogis out there, and they say, yeah, I'm eating that diet, and they're still getting sick because that diet is not enough. That is not enough. Like you can have, like I've been to India many times, they give you a big plate of rice, white rice, and a little vegetables. And according to the yogic diet, it's perfect. It's fine, but it's not fine because the vegetables have been fried in oil and the white rice is in a proportion which is the wrong proportion. So we need to consider the alkaline properties of food, and we have to take more of alkaline foods. And alkaline, now there's a confusion about that because like one of the best alkaline foods is lemon water. Lemon water, a little bit pinch of salt. It's one of the best, if alkaline, but you say lemon is acidic, it's an acidic thing. But in the body, it creates an alkaline climate. That the pH of your body will become alkaline. So we want the foods which are mostly alkaline. And I read in one place where it said 4-to-1. So maybe the vegetables should be up like this and the rice should be down. And the vegetables shouldn't be fried because that's why you saw that last point. Was there raw food? Was there, when the vegetables are raw or they're boiled or something like that, then they retain alkaline properties. Now, basically, what are the alkaline foods? Let's see what I have here. Yeah, fruits and vegetables. These are basically really what we're talking about. But grains, meat, fats, and oil are acidic foods. But you can eat both, like you can't have a sandwich without the bread on it, right? So you can have, but the proportion, and you'll see that when we go through, if you go through that book, many of the diet prescriptions are there. Alkaline diet, always alkaline diet. You see it in many different diseases, not just one. So now, what exactly are the alkaline? Like I said, generally fruits and vegetables, alkaline, and then other things are more acidic. Some are more acidic than others, but the other things will become acidic. So I have one list here which I copied from the internet, but I think it's pretty good. I'm going to show it. I'm going to share some of it with you. It doesn't fit all on the screen, and you'll get a further idea. Although I don't agree with everything which the guy says here. So he's showing alkaline forming and acid forming foods. So you see that, like I don't know about garlic. If that's in the yogic diet, we don't have that. I don't know if it really will create alkaline diet, but you see all these things, that you can have, but then these other things, they're different forms of acidity. Now you can have them; they're good foods. A lot of them are good foods, although we won't eat rabbit, and which is here. He recommends rabbit. I don't recommend them, but the proportion is what you need, and also what we've been learning from nutritionists today. And everybody is saying that you have to have unrefined, more natural foods, and less processed foods. So, like I go down the supermarket aisle, and according to my taste, most of the things are not necessary that are there. There's a whole aisle of chips, and then there's another aisle of this, another aisle. These things are. Maybe they should have like one stand with that, because that's the proportion that people need. And I'll talk about the chips at the end also, that you can still have them, but I'll talk about that. But the thing is the proportions. So if you go in the supermarkets, the proportions are wrong, and the proportions that people eat. You go to the checkout counter and you'll see what people are buying, and people are not filling up their thing with. They are. I mean, people do go to the produce aisle, but they have to go more to the produce aisle and less from the other aisle. And I think that will have a big effect on health. It's a huge factor on health. So you can have all the doctors and at all the hospitals, this and that, but we should prevent people from going there. That should be our goal. I think that's my opinion. Okay, so I won't dwell more on this, but remember, more alkaline foods, unprocessed foods, and more natural foods is really one of your best friends. Then there's another thing, which is a big thing, if you go through this book, this lack of exercise, and this is what he said also in that first point, the physical labor. So we have a lack of exercise in life. It was because of the way our life has been structured, because of the jobs that we have. We don't work in fields anymore. We don't chop wood. All the tasks have been eliminated. But the body still needs, our body, your body, my body, we still need to do something. I found, and a lot of health people are prescribing this too. It's not just me, because I've read a lot of studies about it, that walking is really a great way, because not everyone is going to be able to go out and play basketball and different kind of sports and everything, but most of us, we can still walk. So now, how much should we walk? Now, some years back, there was a Japanese company, and they were selling a pedometer, like it was a standalone item. You put it on your leg or somewhere, and they would measure how many steps you take in a day. So they wanted to promote their product. They said you should take 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps. So a lot of people have gotten into, I even know I have a friend who does 10,000 steps. But actually people then did some research, which they took some groups of people, in a certain age bracket, and then they gave them amounts of exercise that they did. And then they found that, when there's more walking, more steps per day, there's better longevity, but it plateaus off. The plateau, which I read in one place, was 4,500. Means that over 4,500, you don't get that much more benefit. But you should get, and I've seen other things, more recent stuff says you have to get 4,000. So you get 4,000. And then, but then I read another study, which is also important, but I still haven't been able to achieve it. They said if you get 7,500, that's good for, helps with blood pressure, lowering blood pressure. So, but anyway, somewhere above 4,000 steps. And now, the great thing is you don't have to buy that pedometer made by the Japanese company. Everybody's phone, especially iPhone, has a step counter. Since 2014, they have a health app. There's a little heart on there. But if you have the Android phone, you can get a health app. So you keep that in your pocket, and then you will get your steps measured. So that's a very important thing. And if you do that, especially take like after your meals and things like that, you do that through the day, then you can get that exercise, and without you don't have to buy these kind of machines. You can do that, but walking is also great. And what I found about walking, it's, of course, walking is best outside, no doubt. But if you have a big enough house, you can also walk inside, especially in the wintertime. Because just like people, they do their bicycle riding inside also, you can do it. Walking outside is great, but if you can't, then walk inside, but please walk. So keep active, keep on those proper foods. You will be in very, very good shape. These are really important things. So yeah, I try to do my thing on this. And then not only that, the interesting thing about the app, it showed me what I did in all the years since 2014. So I've been over 4,000 steps, but I didn't reach some of the higher plateaus. But at least I'm hanging in there with my 4,000 steps. So you can do that too. Let's see what else we got. Now, the last one, actually this is only the last point I have. The last one is the interesting one. People may have heard of this we have a conduct rule called all-around self-restraint. But this is really important for health. The reason is that eating, sleeping, fear, and procreation, this is common. Animals have that, and we are animals in that sense, we're mammals. So all of these things are part of life. But if any of them are exaggerated, it gives a bad result. Like I remember when I was in college, there's one guy, he is wild. I met him recently. He said, yeah, I was wild in those days. He was wild. So one day he came into the diner. He said, I ate 13 eggs today. Then the next day he slept maybe 13 hours. So it's completely out of whack. We don't want to be like that. So it's very important. But so you have to eat, but if you eat too much, what will happen? Sleeping is good. If you sleep too much, it's not good. Another thing which people, it's kind of, a monk is going to talk about it, but it's in the book and very important. Sexual excess is also one of the causes of many of the diseases. But fortunately, for that and for all the other excesses, the remedy is really the yogic lifestyle, proper bathing, cleanliness, and yoga postures, meditation, and you will get all around self-restraint. And I have a prescription for people. If you're having trouble to get that restraint in your life, you should do one thing. So we told you to meditate 2 times a day, right? So what I say is, if you're having really trouble on that restraint aspect, meditate 3 times a day. It could be a little time at lunchtime, you use a little, but meditate 3 times a day, and you'll get turned like introverted. See, that's the whole thing of what yoga is all about, is to becoming more introverted. We have the extroverted stuff, no doubt, it's part of life, but we have to become a little bit more introverted. And when you become more introverted, then you will get that self-restraint. So these are all important. So what I mentioned, food, exercise, self-restraint, really very important. Now, it's my last point. I'm avid for reading about different kind of things, studies about health and diet. So one time I read something, there was a study, and they fed 2 groups of rats food. So one group had the normal caloric amount, and the other group, they were giving 30% less, or 33%, something. They lost some of their calories that the other rats were getting. But the group that had less calories, they were living longer. So there was one guy who read this in the newspaper like me. He came to his doctor. He said, Doc, if I eat 30% less, will I live longer? He said, I don't know if you will live longer, but it will seem longer. So that's the point here, that you have those chips, it's not bad, because we don't want the life to be dreary and long. You can do that. You can have your ice cream, all these different things, but in the proper proportion. So this is really the yoga health secrets. Really, you should study. You should learn the yoga lifestyle. The yoga lifestyle in itself is important. But even on top of the yoga lifestyle, which I'd say many yogis you have to learn about food and the finesse of food. Some of the fine points, the subtleties of food eating, and you have to do your exercise. You meditate. Yoga asanas, that's not proper. It's exercise, a certain type, but it doesn't substitute for physical labor. So I think if you combine a lot of the research that's coming out on nutrition and diet and health with the yoga, and you go through some books like Yoga Treatments and other books about that, I think you will be a long way to achieving health. Anyway,